In this fourth video, we continue our study of John's first vision in the book of Revelation, found in chapter 1, verses 9 through 20. And the first vision of John is a vision of Jesus. This shouldn't surprise us, as the opening words of the book are a revelation of Jesus Christ. And so John's first vision is quite literally a revelation of Jesus. Who is Jesus to you? The vision of John here, the vision of Jesus, is much different than the Jesus that we read about in the Gospels. He's no longer a babe in a manger. He's no longer the humble teacher from Galilee, the man on trial being whipped and flogged and beaten. He's no longer the emaciated man hanging from a cross, but John presents Jesus as he is right now. Jesus is not dead, he's alive, and he is the resurrected King of glory, the judge of all the earth. In verses 12 through 16, John tells us 9 details, according to my count, of one like a son of man. It's John's way of mentioning that this person is Jesus. And there's a few different themes of this vision. The first is that Jesus is a priest. He is clothed with a long robe with a golden sash around his chest. That's the clothing of a priest. Moreover, he's in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands. That reminds us of the priests in the Old Testament who would walk into the tabernacle and the temple. One of their jobs was to take care of the golden lampstand. But also, Jesus is God. In verse 14, it says, the hairs of his head were white like wool, like snow. This is a reference to Daniel chapter 7. And actually, in Daniel 7, it's the Ancient of Days. That's God himself who has hair that is white like snow, like wool. And so Jesus here is, John is presenting him as God, and Jesus is God. The other theme mentioned is that Jesus is the judge. John says his eyes were like a flame of fire, and his feet were like burnished bronze, refined in a furnace. Both of these images, the eyes like fire, the feet of bronze being refined in a furnace, are images of judgment. John repeats the eyes of fire in his account in chapter 19, his vision of Jesus returning to judge the living and the dead, the wicked and the righteous. It says his voice was like the roar of many waters. And in Ezekiel, the presence of God, the voice of God, is compared to the sound of many waters. And so again, this points to the divinity of Jesus, that Jesus is God. Next, John says that in his right hand he held 7 stars. Now, the 7 stars are later interpreted to be the 7 angels of the 7 churches. And the fact that Jesus holds the 7 stars in his right hand shows that Jesus is superior to the angels. We know from Colossians and perhaps Hebrews and some other books in the New Testament that it was a problem for many Christians in the early church that they would worship angels. And yet the fact that Jesus holds the 7 angels in his right hand shows that he's superior to the angels. He's better than the angels. So why worship the angels when you can worship the one who's better than the angels, Jesus Christ? Also, if you think about the Greco-Roman Empire and culture, that the Romans and many ancient peoples worshiped the stars and the sun and the moon as gods and goddesses. And the fact that Jesus holds the stars in his hand shows that he is superior to any of the gods and goddesses of the ancient world. And so once again, it points out to the fact that worship him, worship Jesus. He's better, he's greater than anyone or anything else. And finally, John tells us that, 2 more things. From his mouth came a sharp, 2-edged sword. Again, this is an image of judgment. It's mentioned again in John's vision of Jesus returning. in chapter 19. It's also an allusion to prophecies in Isaiah, which portray the Messiah, the Christ, as having a sword coming from his mouth. And so Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, he's the judge. And finally, it says his face was like the sun shining in full strength. It's interesting that in the Gospels, in his transfiguration, it says also that Jesus's face was shining like the sun. And also at the end of Revelation, we are told that there's no need in the heavenly city, the New Jerusalem. There's no need for the sun because the glory of God and of the Lamb, Jesus Christ, are the light that shine. And so his face shining like the sun is a picture of Jesus' glory, and it's the glory of God. So who is Jesus to you? John is presenting Jesus here as he is now. He's the priest. He's the king. He's the judge. He's the Christ. He is God. Thank you for watching this, and I would encourage you to subscribe to our channel. Until next time.